Hello, everyone. My name's Alejandro Chavarria Gonzalez, and today I'm talking about depression in immigrant families. This gives me the opportunity as an immigrant and as a member of an immigrant family, gives me the opportunity to look at the way I cope and the way my family copes together, how I affect my family through coping, and then the support that we provide each other, not only just within my family, but within also the large immigrant community. It also gives me the opportunity to understand depression trends within immigrants. This is Roma. Let's get going. First article looked at marital communications in a relationship. They found that supportive marital communication men reduce cortisol, strengthen immune system. That's common cold, right? And the opposite was true. But poor communication meant elevated stress. This means that for immigrants, we're able to, as a tiny community, consider this. When we first get to the country, support systems are lacking. We don't have our families here. Our families are very tight knit, which means that and we're support each other, we're buffering stress. But also means that if we're placing a lot of stress within our relationships, this can mean that our very small circles are going to be very damaged. One of the articles I looked at found that actor and partner depressive symptoms increase reassurance seeking. They saw that actor relational uncertainty increase negative feedback seeking. Within men, they said that partner uncertainty, men's negative feedback seeking increase as well. What does this mean? That as immigrants, we have a lot of stress, right? We have immigration policies, we have cultural adaptation, we have financial problems and all these things as they're add up, plus the stigma that we have as immigrants, perhaps for me as Mexicans, as Hispanics, around mental health, this all creating this maladaptive coping. And within our families, we're placing a lot of stress within our connections. Reassurance seeking, negative behavior are all placing a lot of stress. One of the articles we looked at, they saw support works when matched to needs. Mismatched support causes stress. This support is dynamic. What does this mean? For immigrants, it has to be culturally competent. Excuse me. We need to understand as immigrants what stigmas do we have? How comfortable are we with speaking to each other? We need to understand this as we cope together and support each other. The one of the articles I looked at online depression communities. They saw that a very specific community called Interested in All Topics. They said that within them, they gained the most online support and offline improvement. And then a smaller lens, they saw emotional and informational mix yielded highest reported benefits. This means that support once again is dynamic. Within immigrants, what does this mean? We're tearing down those barriers, right? We're able to support each other at all times of the day. We're able to perhaps talk to people in Spanish and English. We're able to break down barriers and talk to people who are in very similar situations. It means we can also control the information we see. We don't have to listen to someone, giving us advice we don't want. We can just read the text or not. This means that for immigrants, it might be a pretty good combination. Combining the two articles that I chose, we see that for immigrants, these barriers, these stigmas, this struggle to talk about depression, it might be combated with the supplemental support of online communities. We see that these maladaptive behaviors, this really high stress that we're putting within our, very small immigrant families, we can actually combat that. We can help and we can try to reverse these maladaptive coping. It might have to start with individually, and then it can actually spread to family, and we can, see better behaviors. How is this manifesting within immigrant depression? I'm already mentioning this coping stressors, immigration stressors, policy, financial stressors. Where am I going to get a job? I can't even speak the language where I immigrated to. These are all adding on, these barriers. Resources are, these barriers to resources are really forcing this reliance on our families. It's forcing us to have to stay with our families and deal with our family's depression and how we cope. And as individuals, we need to really be careful. This social support means it has to be matched to our needs. For immigrants, like I'm saying, we need to be able to look at the way that we have dealt with depression, the way that the stigma has carried us, and the way that we see ourselves as immigrants. Most of the time, we see ourselves as very lucky, and we're supposed to be careful. How could we ever be depressed? We need to understand and support each other, very much understanding that context. Through this article that I found, perhaps online communities can fill that gap and discontinue support. But once again, they're basically just proving once again that we need to have this diverse and dynamic support system. And within just our own families, it's very stressful and it's very, very, very pressed. And we really need to be careful with that. As communication advice, it's very relevant to immigrants, but also almost anybody. How do you best communicate? Do you want to talk your language today? Do you want to talk English? Do you need a translator? How are we going to communicate? Would you like advice? Do you want me to listen? Do you want to know my own story? As an immigrant, I share my story all the time, but Sometimes people that's not what they really need. Perhaps they need an immigration lawyer. Perhaps they just want someone to listen. We need to be always keeping this in mind. And then because we're also very isolated, we need to stay with that mindset of we always support each other. We can work this out together. I believe in you. We'll figure this out. And then was I helpful? Do you need another plan? We need to be able to be dynamic. And this was mentioned in all of our lectures this week, but also just within our readings. It's very clear. We need to be dynamic, excuse me, and we need to be diverse in the approaches that we take. We need to avoid solicit advice, dismissal, minimizing. Immigrants, they might not understand, a conversation, but we're always very dynamic and we're very resilient. We need to always keep that in mind. Immigrant families cope based on immigration stress. We need to keep that in mind. Matching support is essential. Reality communication is central. We need to be always looking for ways that we're affecting each other and how we can help. The references are right here. Please let me know if you want to talk.